either way. How are you anyway?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. A little warm. A little
Yes,
warm.
that's me.
Yeah, a little warmer than I want it to be, but otherwise, not too bad. I was just getting distracted by the news before.
No, not at the moment. That was the thing with the topics and stuff. I'm sort of thinking most topical things at the moment in the news are not the topics you really want to be talking about for an hour.
No, no, it's all a bit depressing
Jeez.
in one way or another. But cool.
I'll pre-warn you, the kids will go on to bed, but they are at times noisy buggers, so they might shout, but my missus is in control of that. And I do have a pug who also may decide to make an appearance at some point.
Again, not the first time that would have happened on this show. We've had dogs jump in, cats jump in. Actually, no, kids might be the first time. Kid interruption, but yeah. Again, I don't edit, so we go as we get. We get what we get with this.
There you go. Might add to it.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, we've already started a little bit. We'll get started properly. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us on.
Very welcome. Thank you for kind of jumping in last minute to get in recorded with me.
Yeah, no worries. And thanks to Barb for sort of putting my name forward as well.
Yes. But she was lined up to come, but we've shifted her to next year in placement of yourself, so you can.
There you go. Take it.
As we go, I don't introduce guests. I let guests introduce themselves. So if you would, who are you and what do you do?
I'm James Jenkins. I'm probably prefer to be known more as an author. Released my first book at the beginning of this year. Done multiple short stories as well. And apart from that, my day job, I'm a plumber, which isn't too interesting. But yeah, as I said to you earlier, it can be a source of inspiration for some very interesting characters at times.
I mean, I think a lot of people relate to that, holding on the two job front. Yeah. I certainly do. I have a separate job, which I never talk about.
That's it. We don't do it.
No, you put your best foot forward with creating stuff. You say, this is what I do. I'm an author. I write.
Absolutely.
It's the only way you can kind of approach things like this, I guess. So some people think they're hiding, or like I think that level of imposter syndrome. And you start thinking about things, and you're like, oh, well, no, but my actual job is I'm a banker or something. And you're like, well, no, you're what you want to be. Everything else is just paying the bills.
Yeah, definitely. I was sort of a bit of a victim of that with the local newspaper. I sent in about the book when it came out, and I got like contact detail of another friend who'd sort of been doing a local business. They ask you a load of questions, and you're quite innocent, and you sort of give them what they need, and they're sort of asking about about your family life, and what you do for a job, and how many times you submitted before you got an acceptance. And then the headline comes out, and it was like I picked my noir picture, it looked like a mugshot anyway, and then the headline was Ipswich plumber published after 20 times of failing or something. I was like, wow. Thanks for that. That's defined me then.
And I imagine that's the first thing which comes up if someone searches you, because they'll have done like their SEO magic and absolutely slapped on every tag in the world.
That's it, yeah. But hey, it's what I am, so, and it pays the bills.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a fair question. I mean, not to steal that headline. I mean, what is your experience of kind of submitting to places and never getting a reply, or have you been rejected 20 times? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it was the generic replies. I was sort of going for trying to find at the time I knew nothing. I wasn't even on Twitter or anything like that. So yeah. I was just compiling lists of publishers that would accept non-solicited manuscripts. So I think I was sort of like knocking on the wrong doors a lot of the time. And a lot of the time you're just getting emails back with a generic sort of like, this isn't for us. And then, and that you were quite happy with them because people were at least responding. You felt like you were in contact somewhere. But other things happened, and then found Twitter and the writing community there. So opened up something else for us, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very much a situation, especially with the writers' world, of just not knowing where to look. That information's not readily available of where to start with things. I know I looked when I kind of self-published a graphic novel, and most of the advice was, "Oh, you need to find an agent."
Yes, that's right.
Like, who does that? Whose first step is find an agent?
I know, yeah. And where are they as well?
Yes, where are they? How much do they cost? How much is too much? And none of that information is just out there. And then you find out that when you do get an agent, that most of the time they aren't supportive to people, that they just take a cut, and then you end up arranging everything anyway.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's a figures game for them. The more people they've got in that pot, the more chance they've got someone doing well.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, that's where their focus goes. So, but no, I can't. Not that I can comment or like fault agents. I haven't got one. So,
I mean, I'll trash agents. I don't care. I don't. I don't feel like I'm ever going to get one. So.
The only problem is what I found is, like you say before, you sort of, there is nothing out there really that tells you. There's a few things like I think it was like Writers Workshop and Authors Publish like monthly, and they'll compile lists, which is really great, and they are fantastic. As where I found the first sort of publishers. But the problem is there's a list of like 20, and there's a list of 20 agents, and everybody who's looking to get published at the time is bombarding the same people with the same submissions and queries. So, chances are very slim.
Yeah, and it's like you say, with this kind of like places accepting unsolicited manuscripts, that often seems to get rarer and rarer. Of places who will submit. I know, especially talking to people who produce comics, and you think, oh, well, back in the day, I might have been able to get something to one of the bigger companies like Marvel or DC, and now there's just no way through.
God, I can imagine of that.
It's a strange old world, is the writing world.
It certainly is. But long live the indie writing community, really. Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of, you actually published a book you mentioned earlier this year.
Yes, I did. Parochial Pigs. It came out with published by Alien Buddha Press, and they accepted it shortly, or just at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. So Red was very quick getting it turned around. I think it was literally about a month from signing the contract to him getting it. So it's a majorly new experience to me. I mean, it was literally to the year, pretty much the day when it came out, when I first started submitting it. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of thought it'd just be nice to have a few people read it, really, if it see the light of day. It'd be nice to have it as one package rather than just me printing it off on the computer and forcing it on my mates to read, which is costly and it's disappointing, to say the least.
How have you found that then, like having it in the hands of other people and not letting go of it, I guess is the way that I'd put it.
How do you mean, sort of like as in like now it being available for people to buy them? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's from the sense of you've had it in your hands, you worked on it, you've proofread it, and then now you've pushed it out. It's public consumption. Anyone can get hold of it.
Well, weirdly enough, and going back to that the local paper thing, mm-hmm. I put that out for like 2 nights. I was just sleepless nights, just worrying about it. I mean, the book's very gritty and like sort of content isn't for everyone, but there was just points where I was sort of like, I was over worrying, thinking, God, what my bosses read it? What if what people think it's me in that book? And it's ridiculous worry, but actually, as it come out, it's been overwhelming, the sort of support I've had from it, and it's I'd like to think it's been more successful than I imagined it being anyway. So you can always be more successful, can't you?
But enough is never enough.
That's it.
It's interesting that you mentioned the idea of people maybe thinking like characters are based on you or something like that, and that's something I've had of writing things and people asking me, well, this is about you, right? Like this is something relating. I'm sort of like, no, this is just imagination.
That's it. Oh God, I get it a lot down there at the yard where we work, and people sort of saying, oh, so that's sort of autobiography, is it? And stuff like that, right in front of a manager or someone. But I suppose, to be honest, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, because it'd be nice if the manager actually bought and read the book. But
There's just a want to not be misinterpreted, I guess, from
Yeah.
anyone who creates. I mean, there is always that risk, I think. I don't know if you find it as well. Of obviously, we do lend from real life when you make someone, or when you make a character, like you said, kind of early on, is the amount of people you meet do end up just, vaguely behind a character name or something like that. Do you find yourself looking at characters and thinking, oh, is that too close? Are they going to know?
Yes, definitely. There's, I started another novel once, and the main character was based on someone I used to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, just for other reasons, it got a little bit too close, so it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and I couldn't really get over a hump in it. In the end, I used a section of it for a short story, and it's pretty close to the bone. Even, I kind of want to talk about it now, but you never know. You never know. Key things in that, I think you'll know it's him.
I like it. There's a thing I find quite fun to do is if you take someone's personality and you put them in a completely different body type. So, you're just like, oh, I've met this 6 foot tall guy, and, he was really angry and all these things. And you're like, all right, well, what if I just put him in a very petite woman? And well, no one will clock on. We'll just,
I like that idea.
I get all the character development I want, but I can represent it however I want.
I think that might be happening in the next book. Actually, do well.
That's the way to do it. So you mentioned your work's kind of, I guess the way to describe it is gritty.
Yes, yeah, definitely so. I mean, I like to, don't get me wrong, I read massive broad range of stuff I've read. I like, it's more like, I suppose really, I write books how I like to watch film.
Okay.
So, and it's being described in that sort of way, like quite cinematic, the way it's set out. So to me, I'm a massive Guy Ritchie, Tarantino, Shane Meadows fan, and I just love that sort of dark, gritty, but yeah, there's a line of humour in it. And I mean, people like my mum who might sort of watch films like that, who, bless her, like she'll say she'll look at the humour it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of this stuff happens. Like people are horrible people. Men in particular can make some pretty terrible characters. But I just feel like it should be free reign, and you can still identify those shortcomings, and you can make a joke of it. I think you should be able to make a joke of it. Right? It makes it lighter, but it doesn't hide darkness underneath it. Sometimes I think you need that as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, actually. I interviewed someone else the other day who it wouldn't describe their work as gritty, but they were very film noir. They were very deeply involved in that idea, and they mentioned that the reason they kind of gravitated towards it was the character aspect of these worlds, and how much you can kind of dive into like numerous backstories and all those kinds of things. I think that's like you mentioned kind of like Guy Ritchie's work. I always think there's so many levels to those characters who just get dropped into situations to see how they would react.
Yeah.
But obviously, you don't encounter that on your day-to-day.
No, that's
or maybe you do.
You'd be surprised. But, I sort of like, there's a massive gangster part of the book, and obviously working as a plumber for local authority, you don't. As far as I know, I don't really come across any gangsters, mind you. I think the world of gangsters has changed now. It's not the sort of romanticized craze and things like that, and the respect anymore. It's normally nowadays kids and stuff like that. So actually, in hindsight, I probably do actually work around quite a lot of their houses. I just don't get involved in that well. But there is, sometimes it is colleagues, it's people I've worked with, and it is the dark truths of people, things they'll get up to and like to talk about and sort of brag about. There's bits in the book. There's a bit about women's underwear, and that's very much borrowed from a real life story from somebody. It was quite repulsing, but at the same time, it made a good sort of joke in a way of it. So, but yeah, some of the people we do work for are very interesting characters. I suppose I have to be quite careful what I say, because it's the nature of our job of keeping things quiet and stuff like that you see. But yeah, you see some things, you really do.
Yeah, definitely. I think I remember with, I mean, you mentioned Tarantino. I kind of watched an interview with him, and it was him and some censor within the US who was asking about the violence in his films, and why do you have to put so much violent content into your films? And I think his one reply to it was, because it's funny. It's fun, it's colorful, there's so much going on to it. And I thought it's kind of a strange thing of just being human, of how we have this fascination with all these violent people. Like, we know we shouldn't be, like, we know we shouldn't be interested in that. And yet we love watching it.
Yeah. Well, it's compelling, isn't it? Because it is, because it isn't what you do or you see or live, or hopefully you don't see and live day to day. But it's also, I mean, people like Tarantino, it's the artistic way it's done. Yeah, I mean, that man's brain is just another level. But it's it's Gangs of London. I don't know if you see the series. I can't remember the director that did all the sort of choreography, but there's a particular fight in that where he's fighting a guy in a flat block. I think he's a traveller, and he's got a machete, and he's fighting the main character. And it's one of the most amazing scenes I've ever seen. It's just, I mean, it's basically, it's dancing. It's performance arts, the way it's just choreographed, the way it works so freely. Like, it must have been, and it's disgusting. It's a horrible, gritty, violent scene, but something beautiful about it. And I think that's the thing. There's beauty in anything, isn't there, really? So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just remind me of the scene from Old Boy. I don't know if you see the original Old Boy, where he like fights his way down a corridor and
just a hammer scene.
With a hammer, and you're like, yeah, I shouldn't be enjoying this, and yet I am. I'm satisfied watching this film.
Do you know what that? Funny, that one's. I think what's happened is Gangs of London has suddenly replaced that scene. That used to be my go-to scene for trying to justify violent scenes. Is that? Or maybe it was like the remake, maybe try and sort of push Old Boy out of the way a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Brolin's, he's great, but you shouldn't have remade Old Boy.
There's a lot of things they shouldn't have remade, to be honest.
I like the idea that you're fully aware that you're making something which you're going to have to justify at some point.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Usually it's family.
I was once told, because some of the illustrations I do, they were just like, Graham, you should just, if they ever go to court, you're going to struggle to justify your actions, because you have this back catalogue of like dismembered hands and faces, and it's like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. It's just like, yeah, but if they ever arrest you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is the thing. I think if you're going to go down that route, you've got to make sure you're squeaky clean in real life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's.
Or hide it really well.
Yeah. I mean, I just tend to look a bit homeless anyway, so my back catalogue doesn't work. I mean, I think that brings up a kind of a fair question. I think of just like, obviously you're writing quite gritty stuff. You're enjoying quite gritty stuff. Presumably, you're writing specifically for adults.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, as a hazarding a guess, you, like myself, probably got involved with stuff like this when we were teenagers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you ever worry or concern about that? Like people getting hold of it, misinterpreting?
Do you know what? That's terrible to say. I'd just be glad that they bought it. No, honestly, like I haven't thought about that. That's a hell of a good question. But yeah, of course I would be. I think it's anyone's sort of fear that your work could be misinterpreted to be used for violence or hate. Actually, I say I haven't thought about that. I suppose I've thought about it in the sense of, at first, another thing with that paper thing that went out. When I was worrying, I was thinking, like, what if people feel that this is, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my mind for coming up with this? Will they get it? There was a lot of points in it where I was started thinking, God, what people think that I think this is okay? And I think that's the comedy has to come in. You have to try and make out that you've got to cover yourself. You've got to cover your bases. Because it is, obviously it is the darker side of life. I wrote it. People have only got me to hold as a reference to it. And that was a massive, massive worry that people wouldn't get it the same way. Fortunately, from what I've heard, they did get it. And that was really, really, really reassuring, especially after the first couple of weeks when it came out and people are sort of saying, like, this character's awful, he's disgusting. Or there's a particular one in there who's equally as bad, but people saying, I really like him, he makes me laugh. And it's like, and these are good people, by the way. They're not, I haven't been selling this to like prisons and stuff. Right? So,
I mean, there might be a market for it. I'm just like...
But yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. But no, hopefully nobody will.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's. I feel like it's one of those fine lines we do tread. I mean, kind of just harking back to when I was talking to Noir before. I remember in the 70s there was like censorship reels of what you couldn't show, and in the 40s there was censorship like lists of what you couldn't show in films. But in the 40s lists, you couldn't show revenge in any way, shape, or form. And I found it interesting that kind of disappeared, because obviously as you got into the 70s, you got so many revenge flicks and things started to get much more violent. And whereas in modern day, revenge makes up the majority of cinema. Like,
it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of you're always kind of walking that fine line of, am I, not exploiting the subject or creating idols, or there's that risk of, like, I think I was watching Breaking Bad and there's a lot of bad characters in it.
Yeah,
people love them, like really idolize them. You're like, yeah, but the things they do.
Yeah, that's quite right. Yeah, I mean, we're talking Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. That's one of my favourite shows I've ever been. I love Breaking Bad, but it's just put itself on a different level. But absolutely, I mean, who doesn't love Saul? And you really pick the bones of it. Saul's not a good guy, not a good guy at all. Like, but you champion him.
I feel with Saul, I almost feel like Better Call Saul was their attempt to just like humanize him in some way. Like, they wrote such an awful character. They're like, I kind of need to explain myself, like how he got to this point, how he ended up in this situation, so I don't feel so bad about it.
It's a good thought. I think they've maybe lost themselves and then just basically reaffirmed that he is. But there's many opportunities they had to take him in a different direction, wasn't there? But he keeps doing it.
Definitely. So, I mean, in terms of kind of this kind of work and this kind of content, is it something you've always been interested in, like ever since you were like a kid, or were you grown into it?
I'll be honest, I grew up wanting to be a rock and roll star. That was my main thing. And that was a failed dream. I did have a little go at it, but that's alongside it, it was just sort of a need to write, to be creative, I think. And when I was a lot earlier, sort of maybe sort of before high school sort of age, I used to read a lot. Went to high school and I think you just sort of, I don't know, unfortunately it seems to become uncool or whatever that you're doing, but you get lost up in other things and stuff in life. But I always loved when we had English lessons and the teacher was, I can see it now, the teacher was blatantly had something going on or they were lazy and they used to go, right, you can go to the library, get yourself a book. And those times, some of the books I read, like just random books, like Gregory's Girl, something like that. Some very strange books, but I was always searching for something that was pushing it as much as you can in a school library, obviously.
Yeah.
And but then, unfortunately, I had a bit of a bad experience with the English teacher doing GCSEs, and it kind of put me off taking it to university. So then, as was the case, became a plumber. Still loved that. That was then when I began sort of reading avidly all the time in between jobs. And it was just that need to, wouldn't it be great if I could write a book? And then it was a really strange way of getting into it, but a friend of mine, Bam, made a indie film with us all in it, and that was a gangster film called Zebras. And at the end of it, he said, "Have you got any ideas?" So I went away, started writing the ideas. And I've always loved, I'm a nightmare at work with, you have to write notes after each job and run out of letters, so trying to give them every detail, like putting it all in. So I went away with this idea and then I think I spent about I don't know, I spent about 3 days at it. I ended up having about 14,000 words and realised that we can't make a 15-minute film out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that blossomed, grew into that. And ever since then, that was about 5 years ago, I haven't stopped. So it wasn't always there. Well, I wouldn't say I always set my mind to do it. But I think it's one of them things, it was sort of there, and then I've just kind of reaffirmed it to myself, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so what kind of stopped you going more into maybe like script writing or something comparatively, and got you more into writing fiction, like straight fiction?
I suppose if I wrote a script, then I've got a script, and then again, the same as it is with trying to get a book published, so I've got to try and find someone that's going to pick that up and make a film out of it. If I write a book, then even if it doesn't get published, I've still got a book that people can read. It's like I say, I mean, I used to sit on the printer, it cost me a fortune to print it out, fold over the paper, get a screwdriver and making a hole in the holes to put elastic band through it, give it to a friend. And they'd read it. And that was, that's amazing. To me, it was like the first time they did that. It was just like, oh, wow, you can print up a little front cover to it and everything else. And, it's incredible. I think I wouldn't ever rule out the script idea, but I feel it was like the book's published. Mm-hmm. There's always a chance that could be turned into a film. And I would love to do it if I could. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it, but I just feel at the moment I've now found my sort of groove doing this a bit.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, because I was having a conversation fairly recently, which was along the lines of people who worry about using an idea too soon. Like they worry, just they kind of grasp hold of an idea and are like, okay, got this idea for a story, don't know what format to put it in. I don't know whether to make it a book, a film, a song. So I'm going to hold on to the idea and never do anything with it.
Yes, yeah.
I worry about creators falling into that trap, because like you say, you could easily just write a book, which could then later become something. There's nothing wrong with reusing a story down the line.
No, absolutely. And then you're right, I know so many people like that, even musical, music, books, ideas. And I do, you do worry about them. You think like, well, they've got a great idea that I'm, particular mate of mine, the idea he's got for this short film or short story, he doesn't quite know. And it's brilliant. And the amount of times I've sat there with a little dry spell and gone, should I write this story? Because it's so good. But I know what will happen. He'll never use it. He will never do anything with it. And that's the end of it. As another mate, same with music. Fortunately, he is beginning to start creating a band again. Mm-hmm. But 10 years ago and before that, he was hands down the best singer, guitarist. He was in the best band around locally. They could have gone anywhere. And he's had that big break 10 years and keeps wanting to get back into it again. And it's just like, because he's got an idea how he wants it to be, but it's not. But fortunately, I'm hoping that he's broken the curse on that, because we're all missing out without him.
Yeah. I think there's a value in, I always say, it's like you need to get your 1%. If you think of kind of a creative idea as like a loading bar, you need to at least take a crack at something, even if it's not perfectly like formed in your head. You have no idea what you want to do with it or where it want to go. Like, write your first draft of your book, do a sketch. Even if you hate it, you've got something to build upon.
Yeah, that's right. Let's just get the bare bones of it, because it starts taking life, doesn't it? With anything creative, you start getting a little bit of it down, you're never going to get it all done in one go. So if you get a bit down, you go away, you're at work, you're doing whatever. What I used to find is I'd go to bed at night and I'd be sitting there or laying there and it'd just be whirring around in your head. Mm-hmm. And it starts taking shape. And then I'd find I'd forget it by the morning. I try so hard to remember it. There'd be tiny little bits and you put it back together again, but they come out of something else entirely different. It's constantly evolving. If you get it out and you start getting something down, then it's there, then, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It's interesting where these kind of, I guess, behavior patterns pick up as well. Like, I know a lot of that kind of behavior we got taught in school. It was very much one of those things of, if you're going to show something to the public, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be, it's got to be framed. It's got to be perfectly, produced. It's got to be your best work. Only show your best work. And over time, I just gradually wore that down. I was like, no, I'm just going to show everyone everything, because how do you develop if you don't show everyone everything?
But so how do you learn? How do you get the feedback you need to grow yourself, really?
How do you practice with your kind of stuff? I mean, I know you've written for magazines and stuff.
How do I practice? I just do it, if I'm honest with you. My wife is amazing. Like, she's a massive supporter and she's a big fan as well. So, and all the same stuff we enjoy. I effectively, I married my best friend. So, we're on the same page. And I suppose that's a lot of it. Like, the amount of times I will drag her away from what she's doing. Like, quick, just come and read this bit. Is this bit all right? Hey, and she's brilliant. She'll either give feedback, she'll tell me outright if it's rubbish, or tell me if it's good.
See, that's useful.
Yes, definitely. And like, back to the worrying about your content, like, is it too much? Is it, too violent or whatever? The times that I've sat there and I'm on the back button, I'm like, Joe, I should get rid of this. She'll come through like, no, it's the one about, it's fine. Really? You think it's okay? All right. You do know your parents are going to read this.
That's interesting though, because I interviewed a couple of fine artists who are in the US, and they were saying, because they work as a duet, they were basically saying that they egg each other on to go further. They show someone something and they say to her, it's like, oh, is this too much? And they're like, no, we can go bigger with this. Like, we can go louder, like more abstract. So having a partner there is, I think it's important to have, even whether it's a creative partner or kind of like someone you're in a relationship with. I think it's definitely worth having someone to bounce ideas off.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just Lauren that does that. So I've got a great friend, Joe, who he lives in Bristol, used to live around here as well. Joe's writing is another level. Like, unfortunately, he's one of these. He's got the idea, he's got it there, and it'll be ready one day. Just get it out there. Just even submit one of your poems or something like that. But until he's ready and got everything ready to go, he won't do it. But I didn't need to go to university and do my A-levels because I've got Joe. So he's my editor. And but he's so much more than that. It's like creative mind is just, we're switched on together, but at the same time, he's still very good at sort of putting me up on things and say, maybe this needs to be different. Or there are times that he'll sort of phone me up and he's had a drink and he's like, this is just too much for me, man. It's just too dark. And then he'll phone me up another couple of days and just be like, so it's brilliant, man. I've had to think about it. It's brilliant. It's like, great, cool, we'll go with that. But I wouldn't be anything without him. I think if I was just in a room on my own just writing stuff, it would be nowhere near as good if I didn't have them to help us.
Do you find it is kind of, I don't know, I guess, do you find it surprising how open people are to kind of providing feedback and reading something for you?
Yeah, I do. Because at first, it was hard. I was trying to get some people to read it, and it was a lot shorter. It was very much smaller. I think probably at the most maybe 60, 70 pages. And a couple of people didn't get through it that I really hoped they'd read it. And that was quite disheartening. But I know what it's like trying to, all the time people sort of ask you to read the books and things like that. And it's, you've got your own life going on. You've got to get into it. You've got to do that. But when sort of some of your best mates aren't, it was kind of, a bit discouraging. However, I found the right people that are always interested too. I've got a sort of good group of sort of 5 to 10 people that I know if I send it over to them, they'll read it and they'll give us honest feedback. Well, I hope they give me honest feedback anyway.
You know.
Yeah.
Not just lying, like bold-faced. Just like, I'm just going to tell him it's really good. No, I think locating an audience and locating the right critics is the way I'd put it. I did a podcast a while back saying that it's important to find a hostile audience every so often.
Yes.
It's important to have your friends who will tell you it's good and they'll look after you and support your ideas, but every so often you got to throw it to the wrong audience and just say, this is what I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, have at it.
I think I found that a little bit the other day. I was out. I'll be honest, I'm absolutely nervous about doing anything like this. But there's a girl that puts on a like she called it the Soapbox event, and
Okay.
she's done it for like music. She's done it for spoken word, poetry, storytelling, all that over the years. And we played some gigs at some of the events she's put on, and she just did a little one in town at the back of the pub the other day.
Right.
I just looked, it was on Father's Day. I looked, we are going to go out with the kids. And I just saw it on Facebook. I was like, I might do it. I might just have a go. Just go and read one of my short stories, see what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like, yeah, there was a couple of people who really were supportive. I passed my book out to the table. It was not one person bought it. One guy, I really liked his stuff. I even said, you can just have it, mate. He's like, no, I don't want to have it. Thanks. So I can't even give it away. But that was a good test because I don't know those people. And I did pick possibly one of the worst stories to do because I think if I count it, there's 20 See You Next Tuesdays in it. And it was, yeah, when some of the people coming up after me and doing sort of love poems that sort of sometimes reference God. And I'm thinking, I think I dropped one. but it's good because, it reminded me that I've been in this little honeymoon period with my work colleagues, been really supportive, your friends, and the right community. And sometimes it's good to just sort of crash back to earth a little bit and just be reminded that it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone.
No, but that's what makes it great.
It's
not for everyone. Yeah. How do you find performing like live? I mean, I always see writing as quite like an insular sitting at home with typing away.
Yeah, and that's I've also seen it that way. But I suppose because I've always played in bands, so I'm used to performing like that. There's a big difference between having other people on a stage with you and even just having the guitar in front of you is sort of like something to hold on to. But
yeah, a nice barrier between you and everyone else is just there. Yeah.
And also as well, because it's like lyrics, even when you write your own songs, like it doesn't matter if anyone knows what it's about, it's fine. They've got something to tap into. But yeah, that felt naked. That was like the sort of dream when you're at school and you've got no trousers on. And it's really bare in your heart when you're actually own writing. But yeah, everyone was in the same boat, so I think that helped as well in some ways.
Again, you just got to find the right people to be around, I think.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. I just go back to kind of point. I mean, obviously, there's a level of swearing when it comes to violent things, and there's a level of humor to that. I think I was just curious whether you view this kind of humor as a very British thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because I was chatting to another comic creator, and we were saying that it seems very British to poke fun at things. Like Americans do violence different compared to us. There's always like a level of slapstick when we do it.
There is, yeah. I feel I can't get away from it because
right.
I first joined like Twitter and the community, and literally just one person on their own. Like not even any of my friends go on Twitter.
Right.
And I first created this account because a lovely guy, John Bowie, fantastic author, who runs Bristol Noir. I tried submitting my book to him, and then he doesn't publish books; he just does short stories. And he's really lovely, and he turned around and he said, "Send a short story in." And he asked my Twitter feeds and everything like that to go in. So I was like, well, I better start an account. And that's how it all sort of started, really. So then I was getting into the other sort of zines and submitting stories. And there's a couple of free that are really sort of more darker, like it's all dark, I suppose, more serious, I suppose, a bit more wordy. But then what I just find is all the other stories, short stories are right. And it's the same with the book. I can't help myself. I'm writing something very serious, very violent and dark. I just have to poke fun at it. I just have to. And I think you're very right. It is a British sense of humour. I've read some fantastic books from American writers that are in the same vein, same sort of genre as mine. But yeah, you won't, and there's no criticism because they are absolutely banging. Like I read their books and think, why can't I write a book like that? Why can't I can't help it. I just get there and like, I think this guy needs to do this. Then make a joke of it or something like that. But
yeah, I don't know what it is about us. We just kind of have this lack of it's not even like someone would maybe describe it as lack of empathy to these situations, but we're all very aware of what we're doing. At the same time, we're just like, I need to take the edge off.
Yes,
in a way,
we're awkward, aren't we? I think
yeah.
Brits are awkward. I think like we're, you know, we sort of worry, we over worry, we sort of, we babble. And the way we sort of probably get out of awkward situations is try to make jokes of it, make light of it. And I certainly do. And then end up digging a further hole. But yeah, it's what defines us.
It is. And then we work through it and we create books and films and things like that.
Yeah, that's it.
We're dishonest with the world around us, but we create art. It's maybe the way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We put ourselves through this to entertain the world.
I always find it interesting as well when you do get something very British, like say like with kind of Lock, Stock or Shade Meadows stuff, of watching other countries comprehend it. You know, like you expose someone from, you know, Finland or France to our work, and they're like, don't quite know how to respond to this.
Definitely. I think that's why some of our films don't do as well overseas as they could do, especially Dead Man's Shoes. I mean, the comedy in that is just the right level. I mean, it's not a laugh out loud comedy, but the way some of those lines are delivered and stuff, right? By Paddy Constantine, just fantastic. It's brilliant, just so well done. I think it sums up that British sense of humour.
Yeah, I think Dead Man's Shoes as well is another kind of great example of not much really happens in that film. It's completely character driven.
Yeah.
Throughout, and I think you end up with stronger stories from doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's another one he did, Once Upon a Time in the Midlands. In that one, and again, there's not much. It's basically the plot is you could have taken it from Neighbours or Brookside. Yeah, not Brookside. When that's called
That's a reference and a half.
So long ago I watched the show. But yeah, that's the thing. The storyline wasn't terrific, but yeah, the characters, the way it was delivered was just really compelling.
Yeah. Do you start with the story or the characters then? I guess is a good question for you.
I have to have an idea of a story, but a character is very. I think I probably do too. I need a story, but I need to see it through the eyes of the character. And usually it is a sort of quite despicable, probably slightly perverted kind of character, somebody that's maybe he's got a position of power and abuses it quite a bit, and then that therefore is how the story sort of entails. It comes out of that, really.
Yeah. It's just important to know we're not writing redemption songs for these characters. We're not trying to make them nice people.
Yes, this is it. Well, the newest one I've written, which is a million miles away from publishing at the moment, but I just thought I see it at work. I don't care. I can talk about this when he's not there anymore. But I was in the stores, and obviously we've got like the tradesmen there, we've got the traffic wardens there, you've got parks there, binmen there, whatever. And this was going back a couple of years back, and this guy comes in, and he's like the head traffic warden of all of them. And he literally comes into I know we were outside the front gate, so I'm having a vape. He comes up, and that's a fag. And I know who he was, and I've heard him talk in stores before, and he's very arrogant guy. And he turns around and he goes, I'm on my phone, I'm like this. I'm like, please don't talk to me. He goes, all right, mate. Hello, mate, all right. What do you do then? Work, plumbing, mate, work for building. He's all right. That's my phone. Like, please, I know where this is going. I work for parking. So, oh, do you, mate? Because I couldn't tell with the whole RoboCop thing going on or anything like that. And then he just stands there staring at me. I know what's coming. He wants me to ask him if I enjoy it. So I was like, do you enjoy it, mate? And I won't refrain my language, but he was effing love it, mate. He goes, the only thing I don't like about it, right? He goes, Saturdays. He goes, I'm into town. I walk down this road called Fonery Road, just full of cars and parking there and parking bays. There's never enough. And he comes down. He's going, I walk down there. I walk with my kids, and I think, could have had that one, could have had that one. And he didn't say one. one wasn't the choice of word he used.
Right. Yeah.
And that was in my head, like that was something there. He sowed a seed, and then there's another couple of incidents of him and another couple of traffic wardens in stores, and I just knew I had to write a book about the traffic warden. And it wasn't going to be nice, and he's now a feeder. Yeah, he's probably worse than Parochial Pigs, to be honest. Like, it's very gritty, but he inspired it, and I'll never thank him, but yeah, at least he did that.
Yeah, there's a level of catharsis when you get to put someone who you just instantly dislike into something, especially when you know something bad will happen to them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The amount of characters you sit there and write, and you think, yeah, you know what, this is this person, but also it's not going to end well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all we're really trying to do. We're just trying to get back at our bullies.
I'll be honest, it didn't work out well for him in my world. But it was actually quite to a point where you did kind of feel sorry for him in the end. But yeah. At least he's not doing it anymore. So the world is free of him, the actual real man. He moved on to do something else. So obviously he didn't love it that much, did he?
No, be replaced by someone else who wants to be a traffic warden for no reason. No.
As a disclaimer, there is probably some lovely traffic wardens out there I just haven't met yet.
Yes, very much along those lines of, there must be a good one somewhere. I just don't know who they are.
Come forward.
Yes, please come forward. Please get in contact with the podcast. We will chat about parking for an hour. I will happily sit and talk about parking for an hour.
Good idea.
No, so I mean, you mentioned you got projects up and coming.
Yeah, I've got the second book. Parochial Pigs is part of it wasn't planned that way. It's going to be part of a 3-book trilogy. So the second book's already written. Third one I've sort of began work on, and then the other one, it was just that traffic warden thing. I could bore you for another half an hour with stories about the traffic wardens that come in and the stuff they've said, but it just became too much. I think they filled a bottle that just overflowed, and it was like, right, I need to put everything aside and I need to start doing this because the level of hate had reached a point of inspiration that it had to be done. But yeah, that's it at the moment. And that's a lot, to be honest. There's a lot of editing that happen yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's I always think editing is my least favorite part of the process.
There is and isn't. Because my friend Joe, who I mentioned earlier, funny enough, he's back from Bristol this week and he's come around tomorrow with the edited copy of the second book. And I wonder if I can put it. It's right there. Which copy this is. I picked out the one that has the one. It just full the camera.
Move note.
It's just like full of edits everywhere, like across it, and that's the lovely thing he'll do for us. He just goes through the whole thing. I'm just kidding, not showing it to the camera. But he'll come back with the second book like that. And when he gave us over them, he did that about 3 times with that one, and it was having something to do. So I've knocked my camera, haven't I? Yeah, it was having something to do to focus on, like because I didn't want to start anything else at the time. Right. So I had them, and I just come back and sort of obviously, wife's very good. So even the kids weren't in bed, she let us sit there at the computer, and I loved it because it felt like you had a beginning and an end to get to. You'd done the hard bit of writing the story and getting that right. Now it was just putting it right, in a sense. So yeah, I don't know. I'm weird. I know a lot of people don't like the editing, but there's something about it. Maybe it's because it's becoming final. You're nearly there. Possibly.
Yeah, which I guess maybe takes us back to that whole idea of not really wanting to let go of what you're kind of doing, or wanting to add extra things to down the line, or kind of slip this story in the side here. Can I introduce this character which I had an idea for, or should I save them for another book?
Yeah, there's an element of that, but then I think I'm quite lazy. So it's lucky that I've got Lauren and Joe, because Joe will be the one that's like, yeah, man, I think you need to like take this chapter and put it at the beginning and then put this one here and do that. And I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Is it not all right? But yeah, as we were saying earlier, you need people like this. Pushes you to that next level, I think.
You do, and you need to do the draft. You've got to do a draft, and you got to start somewhere. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I think is a good point to round this out on. Really
nice one.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming along.
We made it to the end.
Oh, made it. That was perfect timing.
Bless him. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having us on. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Yeah. Well, I will happily have you back on. Another time. Chat about some other bits as well as when your new books and stuff come out.
Brilliant.
When you eventually get around to writing your film and all the other bits, things like that. No, in that case, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, James.
Brilliant. Cheers, Graham. Take care. Thank you. Bye.